Welcome to the 50s. We're gonna screw up generations together.
Welcome to Bill and Red's history production. This is Topic Talk, and today we are going to be talking about the downfall of history.
Better known as the 1950s. Now, you might see it as a downfall. Most people see it as an explosion of technology and modern convenience and stuff of that standpoint. But I personally see it as the 1950s is the downfall of
Common sense?
Well, no, I really should consider it the downfall. It is the changing point or the tipping point of American culture at its finest. And we, before the 1950s, we really didn't have a tipping point as extreme. It was gradual, changes that took place. But for our men and women coming out of World War II and into the 50s, it was a whole new era.
Yeah. I can
So what,
see
so
a
what
lot
did
of that.
so what did we get out of the 1950s?
Out of the 1950s, we got TV, should I say, in every household?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Bonanza became Bonanza was set up to sell color TVs.
Yeah.
1950s, we seen that the automobile industry was 50 years old by that time, and so in the early 50s, man, having the biggest, beautiful, nicest cars. I mean, stuff like electric windows came out, AC came out, air conditioning was invented in Houston, Texas. In the 1950s. The 1950s seen a lot.
It was an explosion of the, housing boom of where it was, the common dream of the white picket fence and the house in the suburbs and stuff like that. So
the National Aeronautics Space industry began.
Space race.
It was all fed by propaganda and the feel that we had to be better than the Russians. And doing so, tons of inventions, and I mean, we went from pretty much wood floor homes in the sticks where you had a garden in your backyard to all of a sudden we're living in the suburbs where the houses were brilliantly colored, and you had two working family members in the house.
Hello, Bob.
Oh, hello, Bob. You all wore the same stuff. Polyester came out. Plastics came out. The 50s was awesome, but it changed America.
It was a time of consumerism. That's
consumer.
Yeah.
I mean, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all these things, they came to what we know of them today in the 50s.
But, is it a product of the 50s, or is the 50s the culmination of what was already being created? And I'm going to go down that evil road of women's lib. Is it to do with women's lib? Because women are now able to go out and get a job and leave the home. The children are now at school, so the women, and there's so many different appliances and things that it frees up the woman to go out and work, and leads us to the point of, in our generation, it was expected for the woman to work. And I've had to break through quite a bit of prejudice the other way, for me to stay at home and be a stay-at-home mom, because I thought that was important for me and my family. But that the degrade? I think it's women's lib that actually degraded the morals and values of of society. But I can also see, the 50s opened up consumerism, and with women's lib, that allowed more money, more disposable money in the household to be able to buy all of this crap.
Well, yeah, I can see what you're saying or where you're coming from on those points, and they're valid points. So don't get me wrong there. I think that it was a breakdown of social culture that brought that about.
I think it was happening before the 50s. I think the 50s just was kind of the nail in the coffin.
Well, yeah, everyone was back home from the war.
Yeah.
And so now you have an influx. Well, first of all, you had a booming economy because of the war effort.
Yeah.
All right. And women had been used to doing the roles of the man. Mm-hmm. All right. While the men were off fighting in the war.
And then all these conveniences come up immediately after the war.
Right.
To where it did allow the women to be out of the home more.
I mean, women became more sexualized in the 50s, I would say. I
think that's something that's always been
there. 50s made it acceptable to wear lipstick and to be powdered up all the time.
Oh, so not sexualized, whorized.
No, I wouldn't say whorized either, but
only whores wear lipstick.
No, they don't. No, they don't. But
well, that was a common thought before then.
It made it socially acceptable to flaunt yourself more. I mean, bathing suits became skimpier and things of the nature
moral degrading of society.
Which opened it up to the fact that not only was all the home conveniences better, I'd say better. I mean, you're not spending hours going and getting water to come and take your lye bar across your washboard.
Yeah, but I've seen one of those TV dinners. Those things are nasty.
Well, yeah, I could see that. But I mean, yeah, that's another one. TV dinners came standard. The fact that the whole hierarchy of the household changed, and it didn't change like easily like it did through the centuries before. It was a abrupt boom.
But is that the 50s or is that more of the 60s? The hippie era.
The 60s escalated it, and it escalated because the things that had came out in the 50s, by the time the next generation or next century came,
they were ready to take that next leap.
Right, yeah. and so it became easier. So by the time you get to, nowadays, I mean, we the 50s seen the Gemini, the Mercury missions, and then we moved into the 60s and the space race, and as quick as we were developing things, it was changing. I mean, the first computer by Honeywell came out in the 50s.
Well, IBM had already been using their rendition of the computer during World War II. Okay, before IBM changed its name to IBM, they were helping Hitler in the Wright. Honeywell.
That's what I just said.
Okay.
It's okay.
All right.
But anyways.
Yeah.
Back
to topic.
Music changed. Social interactions changed. We went from having just.
Oh yeah, Frank Lloyd Wright's house. Ugh.
Hiding
the doors. Where's the porch? Frank Lloyd Wright.
Are you talking about the Winchester house? Or
no,
Frank
I'm
Lloyd
talking
Wright's?
about Frank Lloyd Wright. His design of of buildings and houses are so cold.
Oh,
There's no home feeling to them. They're industrial feeling. He didn't have the, like the houses that were built beforehand had large porches so neighbors could sit down and talk, and the door was accessible or viewed from the street. Well, he didn't believe in those thought processes, so it's like hiding the doors. It's a very unwelcoming design. I don't like Frank Lloyd Wright's designs.
But on the other hand, the 1950s.
Back on topic.
Back on topic. Oh, Debbie Downer over here, putting us back on topic. But on the other hand, the 1950s not only took America from being just
another country,
another
to the greatest state in the world, greatest country in the world.
Y'all know what makes this great? Is the fact that most people out there would go, oh, Bill is going to be the one to crack the jokes and to do the obnoxious crap constantly. And in fact, it's not. No. Bill tries to keep us on topic. No matter how lit Bill gets, I still try to keep us on topic.
And
the problem is,
this is not scripted. We've been accused of scripting all of this crap. No, it's not scripted.
I wish y'all knew how much hit the editing room floor.
This probably will too.
So, anyways, the 1950s.
More fodder for the outtakes. Anyways, on topic, Bill. Come on.
Anyways. Alright, the 1950s did so much for the American culture in a positive way, and I always try to look at the positive aspects, even though the negatives, I can also see those, but the positive aspects of the 1950s in America is that we went from a global, just another rebellious colony from Great Britain, to a actual global power in the 1950s, and it had a lot to do with the men in charge and their egos. That's number one. They were very egotistical men
I
that
think
were in
we've
charge.
had quite a few egotistical men, and that's what makes our country so great.
Yeah, I mean, we went to great lengths to make sure that we were better than every other country in the world after coming out of World War II. And the things that we accomplished in 20 years, from 1950 to 1970, we went from basically just being able to do low altitude flights to putting a man on the moon. We went from having radio to having color TVs. We went from having recorded radio shows to having live television broadcasts. We developed and set the groundworks for things that are cell phones. There's more technology on this phone right here than there was on the whole Apollo mission.
But yet we can't put another mission on the moon?
My watch has more technology in it and more capability than the computer system that ran the Apollo missions. I know this because I'm a nerd. What can I say? The 1950s seen an influx in sci-fi. It became, it was an amazing time, and I would have loved to have lived it.
It was an influx of luxury.
It was, and it was a wonderful time. It was a joyful time in America. And that is, I would say, the pinnacle of American pride and American like greatness was in the 1950s. And then we hit the 60s and it started doing this. We hit the 70s, it's like this.
Well, like a pendulum.
We hit the 80s, it's like
Crash and burn.
the 90s, 2000s.
He can't whistle that. Well, we can't hear the whistle that low.
The dogs are going crazy. But the apex of American history, I would say, was the 1950s. And it was the turning point to us being where we are today. So if it wasn't for the 1950s, I don't believe that we could even be doing this
Okay.
that we're
well,
doing right now.
I'd have to agree. Look at that. We actually agree on something on camera.
Hey.
The world's going to end tomorrow.
It's just gonna go. It was just a white light.
Yep. Ah! All right. Well, unless there's something else to add to that.
You got anything you want to ask about it?
No, I think
I think we covered it.
Yeah, we covered it.
So, thank you again for joining
Yep,
us.
this is another episode of Topic. Blah, blah.
It is another episode of Topic Talk with Bill
And Red.
Red.